Hello everyone, welcome to the discussion of DA and DS questions of TG mock ICET, which was conducted on 14th and 15th state level free mock test that was conducted. So let's look at the first data sufficiency part in the examination mock test questions, and then we look at the DA part. And if you observe the mock test here, out of the 20 questions that we are having on data sufficiency, there are definitely at least 50% of the questions are straight away doable, we can say. And if you are observing, at least there are somewhere around 14 to 15 questions are actually within the time frame we can answer them. And there may be some 2-3 questions which are slightly lengthy, but there are some questions which we cannot miss them. So like the first question, if you are looking at, if x and y are integers, is the unit digit in the product of x and y an even number or not is the question. So x and y integers aithe, the product of those two, x and y another odd number avutunda, even number avutunda, is the unit digit an odd number or not is the question. So if you look at the first statement, x is given to be an odd number, right? So when we will have product of two numbers as odd, that is important point that we have to know. When we have both the numbers as odd, the product will become basically odd number, right? So from the first statement, we have only data about x, no data about y. But what is the second statement's data? So that means what we can say, without knowing y, we cannot answer the question from first statement. So first statement is not sufficient. Second statement తీసుకుంటే y is given to be an even number. So basically y is an even number we are having here. So if y is even number into any integer will always result in an even number only, right? Whether we have this as an odd integer or even integer, even into any integer will become basically even. So in that case, what we can say, without knowing anything about x, we can say y into x we will obviously be even number. So what adutundi manaki, is that an odd number? So we can definitely say that is not odd, it will be even. So for answering this question, statement 2 alone sufficient. And we know the standard directions that normally ICET follows. We just look at the directions for the sake of understanding them. Right? In questions numbered 1, 2, 3, a question is followed by data in the form of two statements labeled as 1 and 2. You must decide whether the data given in the statements are sufficient to answer the questions or not. Basically, using the data, make an appropriate choice from 1 to 4 as per the following guidelines. In guidelines ichcharu manaki, mark choice, first instruction is mark choice 1 if statement 1 alone is sufficient to answer the question. So if you find only first statement as sufficient, answer should be choice 1. Alane, what is B saying? Mark choice 2 if statement 2 alone is sufficient to answer the question. If you are finding only second statement as sufficient, answer should be choice 2, right? What are the other conditions? Sorry. Mark choice 3 if both the statements 1 and 2 together are sufficient to answer the question, but neither statement alone is sufficient. So they are independently not sufficient, but together they are sufficient. Alanti situations, the answer should be choice 3. Mark choice 4 if both the statements 1 and 2 together are not sufficient to answer the question and additional data is required. So wherever you find that 1 and 2, the given data is not sufficient, but we require some more data for answering the question, then answer should be choice 4. So ikkada manaki chuste ganaka first statement sufficient kaadu, but second statement sufficient. So second statement sufficient is the answer should be 2. That is what we understand. So it's an easy question to answer or to start our, what we can say, answering part. So let's look at the next question. The question is in this way. And for our easy understanding, we are looking at all the directions in the same slide, right? How many students are there in the class? First statement says the number of boys and girls in the class is in the ratio of 2:3. So boys and girls ratio ichchadu gaani manaki ratio doesn't give us the actual values. We know that from simple equations, ratio, proportion, variation topic. So that is the reason we will move to the second statement. Second statement emantunadu, the number of girls in the class exceeds that of the number of boys in the class by 15. So girls is more than boys by 15, but we don't know how many girls are there, how many boys are there. So that means what we can say, second statement is also not sufficient. But going for the combination, what is the ratio of boys and girls he has mentioned from the first statement? 2:3. And the boys can some 2k aithe, girls will be some 3k. So clearly girls are more than boys by 3k minus 2k, k. That k is nothing but 15, we understand. So as we know k value, we can definitely find how many students are basically there in the class, which is nothing but 2k plus 3k, 5k. So can we answer the question? Yes. From where we can answer? First statement, independently not sufficient. Second statement, independently not sufficient. But going for the combination, yes, we are in a position to answer. So combination wise sufficient is the answer should be choice 3. So answer for this question should be choice 3. One more easy question. That is what I have mentioned at the beginning. Right. Let's look at the next one. If A, B, C are integers, then is B an odd number or not is the question. What is the first statement's data? AB plus BC is an odd number. So AB plus BC అనేది odd number అయితే కనుక మనకి B common తీసుకుంటే we will be left with B into A plus C. This is given as odd number. And if we take common, we can write this also as odd number. So product of these two parts is basically odd. And we can say when we'll be having product of two numbers as odd means when each of them is odd. So B should be odd number. In the same way, A plus C should also be odd number. But the question is about only what? B. So we can definitely say that B is odd number from first statement, because the question is B an odd number or not? So first statement alone sufficient. And ICET directions on a big advantage enti ante ganaka, if we are sure that our first statement is sufficient, we don't have to spend the time on the second statement. We can simply ignore that so that we can save the time, because there is no chance for each statement sufficient in ICET. So that is the reason we can say answer should be first statement alone sufficient kabatti. It should be choice 1. Right? Let's move on to the next set of questions. These are the first 3 questions of the paper. Then next we are having data sufficiency question in the paper given as 16, 17, 18 in that way. So 16th one, if x and y are positive integers such that x into y is 72. What is the value of x is the question. So x and y are given to be integers, right? Or given to be positive integers such that x into y is 72. And what we have to find out? What is the value of x? X enta ani adugutunnadu maniki. First statement says x is greater than y. Okay, first we look at the possibilities for the product of those two numbers as 72. So if we consider y as 1, 72 as x, 72 into 1 will be 72. That is one possibility. If we increase y to 2, x will become 36. 36 2 is 72. Alane y if it is taken as 3, x should be 24 because 24 3 is 72. And y if it is taken as 4, x should be 18. 5 if we are considering x won't be integers, so okay, ignore that. If we take y as 6, x will become basically 12. 7 is not dividing 72, we can ignore that. Alane 8 diskunte y x should be 9. And if you are increasing y to 9, x will become 8. That means we will be getting the reverse results. What is the first questions? First statement's data? X should be greater than y. In all these cases, we are considering x as y only. So how many cases are possible? Basically, 3 here, 3 here, 6 cases are there. So any one of the 6 values x can take. So first statement not sufficient. Avuna? Second statement kelte 4 less than x by y less than 5. Ante x by y ganaka mana fraction kinda raste, it should be between 4 and 5. Right. Now if you are considering x as 72 and y as 1, 72 by 1 will be what? 72. It is not in that range of 4 to 5. Already 36 by 2, 18, not in that range. 24 by 3, 8, not in that range. But if you observe carefully, 18 by 4, what we can say? 4 fours is 16. 2 extra means 0.5 times. It will be 4.5, which is between 4 and 5 only or not. So this is what is definitely satisfying, we can say. And remaining cases lo diskunte 12 by 6 is only 2, 9 by 8 is less than what we can say 2 times. So that means what we understand from the second statement, we can say that if it is x by y is between 4 and 5, the only possibility should be x should be 18 and y should be 4. So can we find the exact values of x and y? Yes. So from where? Second statement alone. So as second statement alone sufficient kabatti, answer should be choice 2. Right? One more slightly lengthy but doable question. Let's move on to the next one. If is x the brother of y or not is the question. First statement says y is the daughter of z. There is no data about x there. So we can ignore, we can say that first statement is not sufficient. And the second statement diskunte x is the son of z and there is no data about y here. So first statement and second statement independently not sufficient. But going for the combination, Y is the daughter of Z. Z daughter వచ్చేసి Y. That is what is the data. And what we are having further from the second statement, X is the son of Z. So if X is the son of Z, what we understand, X and Y are basically siblings only or not? So that means what we can say, we can definitely say that X is as male and Y is female. What we can say, X is brother to Y, we can say. So we can answer the question from the combination. So combination sufficient kabatti answer should be choice 3. One more easy question. Let's move on to the next one. What is that month of a leap year? So that month is particular month he is basically talking about. A month ento manam kanukovali. First statement says that month starts with Sunday and ends with Sunday is the data. Okay. So if you are considering a month like January 1st, if it is Sunday, what we understand, 8th also will be Sunday because 7 days later it will be repetition. 15th also will be Sunday. 22nd also will be Sunday. 29th will be Sunday. Right or not? 30th will be Monday. 31st will be Tuesday. I mean, 29th, 30th will be, Monday. 31st will be Tuesday in that way. So is that starting with the same day and ending with the same day means no. But if you are considering February instead of January 1st, if it is February 1st is Sunday, what we can say, 8th also will be Sunday. 15th also will be Sunday. 22nd will be Sunday. 29th will be Sunday. As that is leap year, February will be having 29 days, we can say. It starts with the same day and ends with the same day, which is possible only in the case of February of a leap year. So that means what we can say, if it is starting with Sunday and ending with Sunday, or ending with starting with some day and ending with the same day, it has to be February of that leap year. So what we can say, first statement alone sufficient. So it has to be choice 1. So second statement lo em data ichina manaki sambandham ledu. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, this is 27th one in the paper. Is the average of the 10 positive integers less than 19 or not is the question. What is average, by the way? Sum of observations by number of observations. Basically we consider it as average. Sum of observations by number of observations. Right. మనం కనుక తీసుకుంటే ఫస్ట్ స్టేట్మెంట్ లో the average of the first 9 numbers is given as 31, right? So average is given as 31. We don't know how much is the sum, but number of numbers we know it as 9. So sum of those numbers we can say as what? 31 into 9. 31 9 is nothing but 279 only, because 39 is 270. One more time it will be 9 more, 279. Now we know those 10 integers are basically positive. There are basically 10 positive numbers he is saying, right or not? So that means if you are considering sum of first 9, we are having as 279. If you are adding the 10th one, which is what we can say greater than 0, because it is not 0, right? Because we know they are positive numbers. If you divide this by 10, what we can say, 279 plus something which is more than 0 will be definitely greater than 279. By 10 will be more than what? 27.9. మనకు కావాల్సింది ఏంటి? Is the average less than 19? It can never be less than 19 if the average of the first 9 numbers is 31. So first statement alone sufficient to answer the question. And what is the second statement data? We are not interested in that one. So answer should be first statement sufficient kabatti choice 1. So this is tricky question. Normally what we think is first 9 numbers gurinchi first statement lo maatladadu, second statement lo 10th numbers gurinchi maatladadu. What we normally think is we require both the statements, but actually the question is not interested in the average. The question is interested in, is that less than 19 or not? We can definitely answer the question from first statement itself. So we have to be careful with these type of questions in the original examination. So let's move on to the next one. How many integers are there between the integers x and y? And if you are looking at first statement, there are 50 odd numbers between x and y. The problem with that one is it is mentioning 50 odd, right? So there are possibilities for this one, because like if between x and y we are having one number as even and the other number as odd, then we will be having some certain number of odd numbers. Or it may be, what is possibility is, if this is odd number and this is also odd number and we are having certain number of odd numbers between them. So based on the different scenario, we will be having different answers possible. And again, first statement manaki sufficient kaadu. Second statement తీసుకుంటే, what is the big advantage? already how much is x he has mentioned and how much is y he has mentioned. So definitely, as we know x and y values, we can definitely find how many integers are there between x and y. So we don't have to calculate how many are there, because the question is not focusing on how, what we can say, the data sufficiency questions, we are not interested in what is the value, what is the answer. We are basically interested in, is the given data sufficient or not? Yes, second statement is sufficient to answer the question. So answer should be what? Second statement sufficient kabatti choice 2, right? If anybody asks how many integers are there between x and y when x is 0 and y is 100, means 100 minus 0, it will be, normally we think that 100, but including them or excluding them, we have to be careful. Including them, I think it will be 100, and if it is excluding them, 99 we will be having, right? Because we are excluding them. The next one, find the length of AB, where AB is a chord of a circle. So what is chord of a circle? First we should know for answering this question. So this is definitely what we can say, we should have some knowledge about answering that particular part. So what is chord? Basically we can say is length, the line joining any 2 points on the circle is basically termed as chord. That is the reason in school days we have studied an important point. The longest chord in a circle is its diameter. That is what is basically diameter, right? So manaki ikkada kavalsindi AB, find the length of AB where AB is a chord. AB and CD are parallel chords of the circle and the length of CD is 7 centimeters. So they are given to be parallel chords, AB and CD, right? So if you are observing carefully, the length of CD is given as 7 centimeters. But we are interested in not the length of CD, we are interested in how much is the length of AB. So first statement definitely not sufficient. Second statement తీసుకుంటే AB and CD are equidistant from the center of the circle. But the problem with the second statement, no data about the length of any one of them he has mentioned. And we don't know, by the way, whether CD is a chord or not, nothing is mentioned there. So if you are going for the combination, AB and CD, they are equidistant from the center of the circle. If these are equidistant, like if 8 from the center O to CD, if it is x units, O to AB is also x units, what we understand is these two parallel chords will be basically of equal length. That is what is the theorem that we have studied in geometry. If we are having two chords of equal length and they are parallel, they will be equidistant from the center of the circle. Even if they are not parallel also, they will be always, two chords of equal length are always equidistant from the center of the circle. So what we can say, second statement alone is not sufficient, first statement alone is not sufficient, but going for the combination we can answer the question. So answer should be choice 3, because together they are sufficient, we can say, right? Let's move on to the next question. The question is, what is the area of the region enclosed between the two concentric circles? Concentric circles ante having the same center. So if this is one circle and this is one more circle having the same center, they are basically termed as concentric circles. Now, what is the first statement's data? The area of this outer circle is 38.5 square units. So ee mottam area, basically we are having it as 38.5, the whole thing. But that is not sufficient to get the area between these two circles. How much is this area is the question. So first statement not sufficient. Second statement, the area of the inner circle is 35 square units. This portion he has mentioned as 35, but that is also not sufficient, we can say. But going for the combination, what we can say, area enclosed between the two circles is nothing but area enclosed between the two circles will become basically nothing but what? Area of outer circle minus area of inner circle. Area of outer circle minus area of inner circle. We have the information about what is outer circle area, 38.5. What about the area of inner circle? 35. So as we know both, we can definitely find the area enclosed between them. So what we can say, answer, together they are sufficient. Again, some knowledge is required for answering this question. That is a important point that we have to keep it in mind while attempting the data sufficiency questions. Most of us may be under the impression that data sufficiency is different from arithmetic or quant or pure maths in that way. No, it is basically a way of testing your knowledge on those areas basically. So that is the reason, if you are perfect with the topics or the concepts of different topics, then data sufficiency will become easy, right? It is not a different topic from the regular quant topics, right? It's only the way the questions are posed are different here. What is the next one? Find the sum of the geometric series whose first term is 4 and the last term is 256. Okay, so what is the geometric series? First we should know that one. So if in a series each term is multiplied by some constant value to get the next term, that series is basically said to be in geometric progression. Suppose if you are considering something like 3, 6, 12, 24, 48 in that way. Each term we are multiplying by 2 to get the next term, right or not? So that series is basically said to be in geometric progression, right? So now, and in general, normally what will be representing, how will be representing terms in geometric progression means, if the first term is taken as A, common ratio, the term with which we are multiplying is known as common ratio. It is R if you are considering here. The second term will become AR. Third term will become AR square. Fourth term will become AR cube. So on in that way we'll be having, right? And if the nth term or the last term is taken as some AR, what we can say, nth term is the last one. It is something that is nothing but AR to the power of n minus 1 we'll be having. ఇక్కడ మనకు కావాల్సింది ఏంటి? Find the sum of the geometric series, and sum of the geometric series is given by a into r power n minus 1 by r minus 1. We have to know this formula to answer the question, right? So where a is the first term, r is the common ratio, n is the number of terms. Okay, we have to know them. First statement, if you are looking at the first term of the series is given as, sorry, first term is already given as 4. First statement says the fourth term of the series is 32, right? So already from the question we have a as 4. We don't know which term is basically the last term. It is given as AR to the power of n minus 1 is 256. That is the last term. What is the first statement's data? The fourth term is nothing but AR cube only or not? AR cube is given as 32, right? So if we substitute that A as 4 here, 4 into R cube is 32. In other words, what we can say, R cube is equal to 8 అవుతుంది. అవునా? R cube is equal to 8 and R is nothing but 2 cube. That implies R is nothing but 2. So once we know R as 2, substituting those values here, A as 4 and R as 2 to the power of n minus 1 as 256, we can find n value. Once we know n value, substitute them here. Then we can find the sum. We don't require to find how much is the sum. We have to know whether we can find the sum or not. Yes, we can definitely find the sum from first statement. So that means what we can say, first statement alone sufficient kabatti, we can ignore the data given in the second statement. Directly we can say that answer should be choice 1, right? So let's move on to the next question, right? Is the quadrilateral ABCD a square or not is the question. First statement says the diagonals of the quadrilateral bisect each other. So diagonals are bisecting each other are possible in many quadrilaterals, like square is possible, rhombus is possible, rectangle is possible, parallelogram is possible. In that way, many cases. So first statement not sufficient. Second statement వచ్చేసి ఏమంటున్నారు మనకి, the adjacent angles of the quadrilateral are equal. Adjacent angles are equal అంటే it may be again square 90-90, in that way we'll be having, or it may be a rectangle, right? In that way we'll be having the possibilities. So first statement and second statement, they are not sufficient. Even if you go for the combination, diagonals are bisecting each other possible in square as well as rectangle. So it can be still a square or it may be a rectangle. So we cannot definitely say that it is surely a square only. So what we can say, as we cannot answer the question from the given data, it should be choice 4. Let's move on to the next one. So some knowledge of geometry is required for answering this question. The next one is the value of x plus y greater than minus 2 or not is the question. So first statement says x square and is equal to y square is equal to 16. The problem with even powers is that will always give us the scope for positives and negatives. Like x square, if it is 16, x may be plus or minus 4. Alane y power 4 ganaka 16 aithe y may be plus or minus 2. So what we are interested in is x plus y greater than minus 2 or not. If we consider x as minus 4 and y as plus 2, it may be minus 2 is also possible. So అందుకని first statement maybe, may not be, not sufficient. But second statement తీసుకుంటే x cube is equal to y power 6 is equal to 64 we are having. What we know is 4 cube is 64, right or not? So that implies what we can say, x should be equal to 4, right? Alane y power 6, if it is 64, y is equal to plus or minus 2, because 2 power 6 is 64, minus 2 whole power 6 also will be 64. So in any case, what is the value of x plus y? We can say here 4 plus or minus 2. So whether we consider plus 2 or minus 2, any case it will be definitely greater than minus 2, we can say. So what we understand, second statement alone is sufficient. So that is the reason whenever we come across even powers, always keep that point in mind. We will be having even negative values also are possible. Don't be under the impression that it will be always positive. But the advantage with odd powers is what? X cube, if it is 64, x has to be positive. If x cube is minus 64, x should be minus 4. That is the only possibility we will be having, right? Let's move on to the next one. Find the equation of the line L. One of the points on L lies on the x-axis as well as on the line x is equal to 3. So basically one of the points on the line is lying on x-axis, right? And it is on the line x is equal to 3. So that means what we understand, it is basically 3 is the point here we are having, right? X is equal to 3. So it may be 3 comma 0 we will be having, because on x-axis y is 0, we know. That is the point, right? Second statement, so we are not able to find the equation because we don't know what is the other point that all the other points through which the line is passing through, because we have to know minimum 2 points to find the equation of the line, or at least 1 point and 1 slope we have to know to answer the question. So first statement not sufficient. And the second statement తీసుకుంటే one of the points on L lies on the y-axis and is 3 units away from the origin. So that means what we understand, 3 units away from the origin means if it is on y-axis, we are talking either this side it may be possible or it may be this is possible. So that means what we can say, if it is on y-axis, x is 0. So that means what we can say, either it may be 0 comma 3 if it is this one. If you are considering this one, it may be 0 comma minus 3. So second statement is giving 2 possibilities for the point for that line. The point that is passing through that line. So second statement is also not sufficient. Even if we go for the combination, if we consider these two as one pair, we will be getting one equation for the line. But if you are considering these two as one pair, we will be getting one more equation. So can we find the exact equation for the line? Means no. So that is the reason answer should be choice 4. Right? So some knowledge of coordinate geometry we have to know for answering this question. Not straightforward, we can say. Let's move on to the next one. Is n divisible by 48 or not is the question. When we can say that n is divisible by a number is divisible by 48 means, if you are observing carefully, we have to write it as product of co-primes. Co-primes ante enti? Two numbers, if they have only one as the common factor, they are basically termed as co-primes. So what we can say is 16 3s is 48, 16 and 3 are 40. 16 into 3 is 48. So that means, in other words, we have to know whether that is divisible by 16 as well as 3 or not. First statement says n is divisible by 16. Yes, this is the point he's talking basically about. But there is no data about whether it is divisible by 3 or not. So first statement sufficient kaadu. Second statement తీసుకుంటే n is the product of 4 consecutive integers. And there is one important point that we have to know here. If n is product of n consecutive integers, it will be divisible by n factorial. Like product of 3 consecutive integers will be divisible by 3 factorial. Like if you are considering something like 7 into 8 into 9, is that divisible by 3 factorial? What is factorial, by the way? Product of the first 3 natural numbers in descending order, we'll be writing that 3 into 2 into 1, which is nothing but 6, we can say. So is 7 into 8 into 9 divisible by 6? Yes, because if you are considering 3 2 times here, 3 3 times here, 2 will go 4 times, it will be definitely divisible by 3 factorial. In the same way, product of 4 consecutive integers will be divisible by 4 factorial. So 4 factorial is nothing but what? 24. 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. It will be divisible by 24. So in other words, what we can say, if it is divisible by 4 factorial means it is divisible by 3 also, because 3 is contained in that 4 factorial. So from the second statement, we are sure that it is divisible by 3 and by even 8 into 3, because further we can write as 8 into 3. But not whether it is divisible by 16 or not, we are not sure. అందుకని సెకండ్ స్టేట్మెంట్ కూడా మనకి సఫిషియెంట్ కాదు. బట్ రెండింటిని కంబైన్ చేస్తే it is divisible by 16, it is divisible by 3. So definitely it is divisible by 48, we can say. So in that way, a slightly lengthy question, we have to know all these concepts, then only we can answer the question. But there are occasions, yes, I said focused on these concepts. So that is the reason we have to know them for answering the questions. So let's move on to the next one. Is P equal to Q? Very easy question. What we can say, question seems to be very small, but the calculation may not be that much easy here. What is the first statement's data? P plus Q into 1 by P plus 1 by Q is equal to 4. Okay. So if you are observing carefully, we can write this one as 1 by P plus 1 by Q. If you take the LCM, it will become Q plus P by PQ is equal to 4. Transferring this PQ to that side, the numerator will become P plus Q into Q plus P is nothing but P plus Q into P plus Q. One more time we can write, which is P plus Q whole square is equal to 4PQ. And from school days, what we can say, P plus Q whole square minus 4PQ is equal to 0 we are having here. But what is this value we can say? P square plus Q square plus 2PQ minus 4PQ will be minus 2PQ, which is nothing but P minus Q whole square is equal to 0. So in other words, what we can say, P is equal to Q. That is what is the question or not? Is P equal to Q? Yes, we can definitely say it from the first statement. So we don't have to spend the time on second statement. Answer should be choice 1, right? So only thing, if you go for one step ahead for understanding that this can be written in that way, the question can be answered easily. Let's move on to the next one. Find the maximum value of the real number x is the question, right? So if you are observing carefully, 3x square is less than x square minus 2x is the data. If you bring this entire thing to this side, 3x square minus x square will become 2x square plus 2x is less than or equal to 0 is the data. If we take 2x common there, what we can say, it will become x plus 1 less than or equal to 0. If you what we can say, divide by throughout, x into x plus 1 is less than or equal to 0. And from our quadratic equations knowledge, if product of the roots is based, if you are having the factors, product of factors is less than or equal to 0, the value should lie between the roots of that one. So if x is less than or equal to 0 means x is 0, x plus 1 is less than or equal to 0 means x is minus 1. So it will be basically minus 1 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 0. That is what is the range in which this will be lying, we can say. But మన కావాల్సిన question ఏంటి? Find the maximum value of x. So it will be between these two. We cannot find the exact value there. So that is the reason first statement not sufficient. Second statement తీసుకుంటే x is greater than or equal to 0. If it is greater than or equal to 0, it may be even positive infinite, right? It may be positive infinite value also we can consider. So first statement and second statement independently not sufficient. But రెండింటిని combine చేస్తే what we know, x should be less than or equal to 0 and x should be greater than or equal to 0. That means x is equal to 0 is the maximum value it will be reaching. Beyond that, it won't be going. So that means what we can say, combination of the statements is sufficient for answering the question. So answer should be what? Choice 3. Let's move on to the next question. This is easy question. Is triangle XYZ an obtuse angle triangle or not? First statement says x plus y is 92 degrees. By the way, what is obtuse angle triangle? There are 3 types of triangles we have. One is acute angle triangle, one is right angle triangle, one is obtuse angle triangle. Acute angle triangle means each of the angle should be less than 90 degrees. Right angle means one of the angle should be 90 degrees. Obtuse angle means one angle should be more than 90 degrees. Remaining two in both these cases should be acute angles. That is what we have to keep it in mind. And from the first statement, x plus z is equal to x plus y is equal to 92. We don't know anything about what is x and what is y there, but we can definitely say that as sum of the angles of a triangle is 180 degrees and x plus y is 92, z should become 180 minus 92 has to be 88. So we can say that z is 88 degrees there. But between x and y, if you have x as 91 degrees and y as 1 degree, it may be an obtuse angle triangle. Or if there are something like 46 we are having, may not be an obtuse angle triangle. Maybe, may not be. Rendu possibilities unnai kabatti first statement not sufficient. But second statement తీసుకుంటే angle x plus angle z is 90 degrees. If angle x plus angle z is 90 degrees, immediately using the same logic, what we can say, y should be 90 degrees. And if you have one of the angles as 90 degrees, it has to be a right angle triangle. So it cannot be an obtuse angle triangle. So second statement alone sufficient. Because one important point that we have studied in geometry in school days is what? One triangle cannot have a right angle as well as obtuse angle at the same time. Because some of the angles itself is what? of a triangle is what? 180 degrees. Okay, 90 degrees and more than 90 degrees in that, it will be crossing 180 degrees, which is not possible. So definitely what we can say, if this sum is 90 degrees, the other angle has to be 90 degrees. It has to be a right angle triangle. Second statement alone is sufficient to say that it is not an obtuse angle triangle. Right? Let's move on to the next question. What is the value of cos power 6 theta plus secant power 6 theta? First statement says cos square theta is equal to 1 plus cot square theta. We know from the school days that cosecant square theta minus cot square theta is always 1. So it is not providing any new data. It is already known to us from what we can say trigonometry knowledge. But if you look at the second statement provides what? Cos theta plus secant theta is 2. But we know from our trigonometry basics, secant theta is nothing but 1 by cos theta. So cos theta plus 1 by cos theta is equal to 2. So in other words, what we can say, cos square theta plus 1 by cos theta is the LCM. If you bring that cos theta this side, it will become 2 cos theta. 2 cos theta we will be having it as cos square theta minus 2 cos theta plus 1 is equal to 0. This is in the form of what? A square minus 2ab plus b square is equal to 0. Where a is what? Cos theta. B is what? 1. So what we can say? This is in the form of a minus b whole square is equal to 0. Right? If we have a minus b whole square is equal to 0, a minus b should be equal to 0. So in other words, what we can say? Cos theta minus 1 should be 0 or cos theta should be equal to 1. So when we have cos theta as 1, definitely what we can say? Secant theta will become 1 by cos theta. That is also 1 we are having. 1 by cos theta also 1 by 1. So that means secant theta also should be 1. Right on? So cos theta if it is 1, secant theta if it is 1. Cos power 6 theta will be 1. Secant power 6 theta also will be 1. So what we can say, definitely we can find the answer from second statement alone. So answer should be choice 2. So let's move on to the next question. What is this one? What is the value of a cube minus 3a square b plus b cube by 4a square b? Okay. The problem with the first statement is it is providing some information about b, but there is no data about a. So without knowing a, we cannot answer the question. But going for the second statement, a and b are in the ratio 3:1. As a is to b is given as 3:1, we can say let a be some 3k, because we know ratio doesn't give us the actual values. So let their values be a is equal to some 3k, b is equal to some k. Now if you are looking at our expression, a cube minus 3a square b plus b cube by what we are having in the denominator, 4a square b. So we substitute these values and see what we will be getting. A place lo if you substitute 3k whole cube minus 3 into 3k whole square. Alane b place lo k plus b cube will be k cube, dividing it by 4 into 3k whole square into b will be k. So if you substitute that one, 3k whole cube ento vastundi manaki 27k cube. 3 into 3k square, 3k whole square will be 9k square. 9k square into 3 will be 27k square into k will be 27k cube. Cancel by k cube. Denominator will be what? 4 into 3k whole square will be 9k square. 4 9 36 kabatti 36k square into k cube 36k cube. So ee rendu cancel chesina we will be left with k cube by 36k cube. What we understand then? K cube if you are cancelling, we can find the answer as what? 1 by 36. Are we getting the exact value for the expression? Yes. From where? Second statement. So what we understand? Second statement alone is sufficient for answering the question. So in that way, we can answer this question. A little bit of what we can say, knowledge about ratio is required. That ratio doesn't give us actual values. If you know that one, you can definitely answer this question. So let's move on to the next one. Yes, we are done with the data sufficiency part. So if you are observing, most of those questions are actually based on the conceptual understanding of different concepts, different topics. If you know them, you can definitely answer. And coming to the data interpretation, maybe the table values are looking to be somewhat bigger numbers. But if you are observing carefully, the big advantage is all of them are multiples of 100 only we are having. So we can answer the questions definitely by considering only the first 2 digits, not the entire number. Or if you are comfortable, you can go for even that one also. మనకి ఏమి ఇచ్చారో ఒకసారి చదువుదాం. Study the following table carefully to answer the questions that follow. The table shows over the years from 2018 to 2022 the number of customers who applied for loan. A basically indicates who applied for loan to 4 nationalized banks, J, K, L and M. So J, K, L and M are basically nationalized banks, as well as the number of customers who were sanctioned that particular loan. So basically S is indicating those who received that, who got that loan. So that means what we understand, 2018 లో J అనే బ్యాంక్ కి 2400 అప్లికేషన్స్ పెట్టుకుంటే లోన్ కోసం 1600 మందికి శాంక్షన్ చేశారు, 800 మందికి శాంక్షన్ చేయలేదు, రైట్? ఇన్ ద సేమ్ వే వీ హ్యావ్ ద డేటా ఫర్ other banks for other entire period time 2018 to 2022 is given. So let's look at the first question here. I just draw that table here also so that every time we don't have to go back to that slide. What is the question? Find the total number of customers who were denied loan by the bank L during the given period. Bank L is this one. మనం కనుక చూస్తే out of 2700 applied in 2018, 1900 were sanctioned. That means the balance 800 did not get the loan. That means their applications were denied. Alane second year 3300 మంది అప్లై చేసుకుంటే 2200 మందికి వచ్చింది. So that means the balance 1100 did not get the loan. 2020 లో out of 3000, 2100 got. That means balance 900 did not get. Next year 3400, 2800, 2600, the gap is 800, we can say. 34 minus 26, 8. Last one 25 minus 16, 9. That will be 900. So in other words, what we can say, 11 plus 9, 2000, plus 1600, 3600, plus 900, 4500. So very easy question. Answer should be 4500, which we cannot miss actually, right? Let's move on to the next one. Find the ratio of the total number of customers who were sanctioned the loan during the years 2020, 21 and 22 by bank K to that by bank M. And here if you are observing, for answering any of these questions, we don't require any prior knowledge of what we can say data interpretation. మనకి ఆ క్వశ్చన్ అర్థం చేసుకుని ఇచ్చిన డేటాను అర్థం చేసుకుంటే చాలు. సో మనకి ఇక్కడ కావాల్సింది K and M, and we are basically interested in sanctioned only, right? In which years? 20, 21, 22. So coming to bank K, 2020, 2500, next year 2000, next year 1800. 25 plus 20, 45. 45 plus 18, 63. 6300. That is about K. And coming to the other bank M, M is 1700 here, 20 here, 2000 there, 1200 here. 17 plus 20, 37 plus 12, 49. So 4900. 0, 0 if you are cancelling them on both sides. 63 is to 49. 7 9s, 7 7s. Answer should be 9 is to 7. One more easy question. Choice 2. Right. Let's look at the next one. In 2019, the number of customers who were denied loan by bank J forms what percentage more or less than that of those by bank L? So denials for J, denials for L. In which year? 19. 19 if you are observing, bank J 2700 applied, 1800 got loan. That means 900 did not get the loan from bank J. Coming to the other bank, bank L. Bank L in 2019, 3300 applied, 2200 were sanctioned, balance 1100 were not given loans. So is this more or less? Means it is less. If it is percentage less, what we can say is it will be always difference by the bigger or the greater value into 100. That is how we can easily do the calculation. Don't get any confusion here. Normally we get between these two, which is smaller, how much is the gap? 200. Now we will be having the dot like denominator lo mana 900 తీసుకోవాలా 1100 తీసుకోవాలా. Always the thumb rule is this one. If it is percentage less, difference by greater into 100. If it is percentage more, difference by smaller into 100. అది. So ఇక్కడ మనకి difference వచ్చేసి 200, greater వచ్చేసి 1100. So what we can say, that much percent less. So in other words, it is basically 2 by 11. 1 by 11 means 9.09% we know from our standard fractions. And 2 by 11 ante 2 times of that. 2 times of 9.18 will be what? 9.09. 9.09 into 2 will become what? 18.18%. And we know it is less. So 18.18% less we can say. All three questions are actually doable here we can say. Let's move on to the next one. As of now, yes, we are done with that table part. Now we look at pie chart. And what is the data that he has mentioned? Study the following pie chart carefully to answer the questions that follow. The following pie chart shows the number of employees in 5 companies P, Q, R, S, and T. Right? So the employees are given in terms of degrees here. 80 degrees, 36 degrees, 60 degrees, 100 degrees, 84 degrees in that way. And the total number of employees is given to be 9,000. That is the data provided here. So let's look at what are the questions are basically focusing on. Yeah. Here also again the same thing. I took the diagram in all these slides so that it will be easy for doing the calculation. The total number of employees in Q and S is how much is the question. Q is having how much here? 36 degrees. S is having 100 degrees. So that means Q and S are together having 136 degrees share in total pie chart. Pie chart, if it is given in the form of percentage, angles, some of them should be equal to 360. So 136 degrees we are having there out of what we can say 360 degrees. In total number of employees is what? 9,000. So what we can say it will be into 9,000. So if you are considering basically 0 and 0, if you are cancelling, 18 2s is 36, 18 5s is 90, that will be 50 times. Right or not? So what we can say further, 2 into, 50 by 2 will be having. The best thing is what? 2 if we are cancelling here, 68 times. 68 into 5 is 340. That means it should be 3,400. Or else 70 into 5 if you are cancelling 3,500, 2 times less be 340. That is also easy only. So definitely doable question, which we cannot miss actually. Right. The next one. Find the ratio of the number of employees in R and T to that in P and Q. And one important point, R is having 60 degrees presence, T is having 84 degrees presence. So 60 plus 84, 144 degrees we are having as the total number of employees there. What about the other company, other two? P and Q. P is having 80 degrees, Q is having 36 degrees. Put together it will be 80 plus 36, 116 degrees. Right. And normally we have, what we normally think is, we have to find the number of employees. No, we don't require. Because ఇక్కడ మనకు తీసుకుంటే నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ ఎంప్లాయీస్ వచ్చేసి 144 by 360 into that 9,000. అలానే ఇక్కడ 116 by 360 into 9,000. That 360 commonly present, we can ignore, cancel that. 9,000 also we can cancel that. What we understand? Answer is dependent on the angle values directly. 144 as well as 116 are clearly divisible in 4. 4 30s 120, 36 means 24 means 6 more times. అలానే ఇక్కడ 4 30s is 120, 1 time less will be 29. So what we can say, it should be 36:29 is the ratio. One more doable question, easy question. Let's look at the next one. Find the difference between the number of employees in P and Q. So P and Q lo manaki difference kavali. P is having 80 degrees presence, Q is having 36 degrees presence. So 80 minus 36, basically what we can say, 44 degrees. So the difference will be 44 degrees out of 360 degrees in 9,000. So again 0 if you are cancelling with 0 here, 18 2s, 18 50s. 2 basically 22 times. 22 5s we know 110. Right? If it is 22 50s, 1100. One more easy question. Answer should be 1100 we can say. In that way we can answer even this question also. Right? So that is what we have. As far as data interpretation is concerned, all 6 questions are actually very easy questions which we cannot miss. Right? So for any inquiries, please log on to our timeforeducation.com, and if you want to write anything, yes, this is our email ID. Right? Thank you all of you.